You're up,
Well, okay,
El Presidente.
we're here for a policy committee meeting and turn this over to the chairman of the committee, Ms. Rose Mulvaney.
Does Mr. President need to get a roll call?
He does, is everyone, are there four members, are all four members on the committee?
There's three.
Whose name should I not call?
Brett,
Stevie's not on the committee.
Thank you.
Sorry, I wasn't.
No, I apologize. I was told the work session today.
No, that's fine. I just didn't know who.
everybody's welcome.
Absolutely.
Yes,
I think Mary's in the other room.
She is.
okay. Now that I know. Roll call. Mulvaney Henry,
Here.
Parker,
Here.
Groneman.
Here,
You have a quorum.
Motion to approve the agenda.
committee things. Have a motion, we would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Have a second?
Again.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded.
Roll call. Mulvaney Henry,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Groneman.
Aye.
That motion carries.
I'm ready.
You ready? Go
I'm
for
ready.
it.
Question.
Yeah, you bet.
Even right now, send out, will we send out every work session or special?
Special session.
We want to make sure that we send it out. Okay, so. But, okay.
I thought it was sent out as a policy committee meeting, but,
Yeah, that's okay.
which is great.
Okay.
Welcome to the policy committee,
Had I only known.
Senator Haley, and
Likewise, that's why.
I understand. Okay, and so we've got a new member on the policy committee. Mr. Parker has joined the policy committee, so welcome aboard. We are thrilled to have you. And I know that that Angie had asked that you send over the redlined and clean versions of where we're at with policy.
Yes, I just sent red line. I'm sorry.
You just sent redline?
Yes,
Okay, so,
apologies.
no, that's okay. That's okay. And so
Jeff was.
And so, you know, we're at a weird spot, right? Because we've got a brand new board member who has joined our committee mid review of this. And I think, you know, Tom and I would like Mr. Parker's input, you know, on what we've done to date. And so I would not put you on the spot tonight, Brett, because I don't think you probably have had an opportunity to review it. That would be my guess. So,
I've read through it. I was on my DPU phone and I didn't see the red line changes. I just saw the full text, so.
sure.
Yeah, if there is a chance to.
Yeah.
make that. Yeah.
No, definitely. Yeah, we're definitely gonna do that. And the other thing that we've talked about, and we've kind of danced around this issue a little bit, is you know, shedding one or more multiple hour sessions to try to actually get through this review. And I really hate to do that to the staff that's involved in this one, but I think that making incremental, you know, progress 1 hour at a time in a work session or, you know, a special session, it's not gonna get the job done. And I know you guys would probably like to be done with it as well. So, so I think, you know, at the outset, I guess, you know, Brett and Tom, I know that we have had this discussion via email, at least on availability. And so, Bill, you know, you and I have talked about this previously, and so I assume that you're still good with,
I'm in favor.
yeah. So I think maybe we need to, let's get that situated before
Yeah.
anything else tonight. Yes, sir.
Do you anticipate that to be for all the policies that we're going to review or just for this major policy that the one that's taking so much time?
Well, I suppose it potential for all policies we review, but I know that this one, you know, is particularly complex. And so I know that we need it for the, well,
Okay.
my feeling is we need it for this one, for
Okay,
sure.
well, for sure we'll do this one, and then if we see that we need to do others in an expanded format, we can take that up too.
Sure. Good deal. Okay, so do folks have their calendars with them? And how we can get to maybe some of these. I mean, I would love to do, a 10-hour session, but I think that would be horrible. And I would never subject anybody else to that because I don't want to be subjected to it. So, I really think, I feel like 3 hours is really a max on human attention span anymore. And so like, I feel like a 4-hour session would really, really be pushing it. I'm not opposed to it, I guess, if we take appropriate breaks, but I guess I'm looking to the committee for your thoughts on that.
3-4 hours.
Yeah, that range works for me as well.
And so the dates that Brett put out, any of those would work for me. I don't have.
And I think, thinking back to that communication, I was probably heavier on the Saturdays. I wasn't thinking fully about the implications of that for staff, so I'm happy to look a little closer on the normal work week so that we're not asking staff to give up half a day on a Saturday.
Sure.
Angie, when we have these work sessions, if there's only 3 members there, do we have to have staff and it have to be videotaped and audio?
It has to be open to the public. It has to be open to the public. You are not required to videotape and broadcast, but you have to have an accessible location and have that public.
So it might not, if push comes to shove and it had to be on a Saturday, we wouldn't be required to have Rob or somebody come in and.
No, but Rob has been keeping track of all of our changes.
But we could make the changes and make sure he got those.
Yeah, I'm scared that'd be me.
Okay.
So,
So now, Bill, I'll ask you, but right, I mean, again, we'll try to avoid a Saturday if we can, just, we don't want to put extra burden, on you or the staff at all for that, so. I mean. I'd love to start ASAP, and Brett, I don't have those dates in front of me, so can you?
That's fine. I mean, I'm happy to give new ones again, aiming to avoid that Saturday. If we're looking at, sooner than later here, next week, Wednesday, first thing, 8-9 a.m. till noon would work for me. Same with Friday, all morning would be open, so that would be the 14th or the 16th. Week after that, afternoon on Tuesday the 20th, or really pretty much any time on Wednesday the 21st. Really, from Tuesday afternoon on, the week of the 19th is open.
Wednesday, the 21st is a meeting day.
Yeah.
So the 13th is out for you.
So what?
The 13th is that out now?
I could make the 13th work as long as it's either morning or early afternoon.
So. Yes.
13 would have to be the afternoon for me. It'd have to be.
So. You can.
I'm available until about 4 o'clock on the 13th. Meeting I can't move.
16.
Monday the 12th?
No,
No.
it's the after Super Bowl, no.
I'm out of town for work on the 12th as well.
All right.
Up here in Vegas.
Not that exciting. The 16th is wide open for me. Morning would be better, but I can make afternoon work.
But I can get ready. As long as you're in the race. So. Roll 16 times 16.
Can do.
16th or 16th.
16th works for me.
Okay, let's
Very
go
good.
morning, or afternoon.
Morning would be my slight preference, but I'll make afternoon work.
9 o'clock.
Time's good for me. Does that work for you all?
What time did
9 o'clock on the 16th.
I usually don't get up that early. I'm retired, but I can make it.
We'll set it for 3 hours.
9 to 12.
Yep,
Which date is this? Have you decided on 13th as well?
16th.
16.
I think Chris knew. I got the chart changes from Rob.
You got written something. We can start.
And December 6th, is that the last time we met on these?
That was October 18th with last.
Oh, yeah.
1 year, Rob.
I showed it the last time where we broke, I showed it at 7:01, 7:1.
7.01.
The files that I gave Ange to pass out were from the October meeting, they were not. The ones that.
So Brett, let me make, do you have a copy of the document with you?
I've got electronically, the ones I have are, it looks like they're dated November 1st to November 2nd. Assuming that's the date, it's 11.1, 11.2, that policy number.
I guess I don't,
It's on his file name.
oh, got it. Can you hover over a red line and see?
Yes, now that I've pulled it up on the laptop, I can. Yeah, that's the one, I've got that. Sorry for the confusion.
No, you're fine. So you're still you said 7.01, is that what you said, or?
That's where I showed that we broke it. I think
What
we
my last
probably
notes
want
are.
to backtrack a little bit. Because of some issues that came up in the last 2 or 3 weeks to the non-residential service application.
Yeah,
See if there's anything in there that you want to address or change or propose to the full board for change.
right. Um. Yeah, so the note that I have on there, I think you guys were gonna maybe grab some data of what the last 12 months of deposits for non-residential service applications look like. And again, I know we haven't been this in a while, so you guys may not have that yet.
What that is?
Over the last 12 months, what does the data look like for the deposits that have been adjusted for non-residential service applications?
Just adjusted.
It says that, yeah, so, there's language in 5.03 that says the deposit can be reassessed every 6 months based upon usage and payment history. And so I think what we were looking for is, how does that play out practically? And so we were looking for data for the last year on what those reassessments look like.
Okay.
If that makes sense. 5.03.
First bullet. First red line.
So, and so one thing, I went and looked at the budget, the approved budget for 2024. And in that budget, if I'm not mistaken, the line item for combined deposits between electric and water is $7.3 million, right? I mean, I have that number correct. Okay. And so, you have seen, I know you have seen, and you guys have seen, you may have seen too, but you guys have seen some of the issues that a couple of commercial customers have brought to us pretty recently. And trying to get to understanding the application of the policies in those particular cases. And so I started looking at, I mean, we've got a commercial customer who was frankly trying to, he had a tenant leave, 2 different metered locations and break the lease and wanted to get these 2 locations paid for and it did so. But in doing so, they basically set these up as 2 new accounts. And this commercial customer has multiple accounts with BPU already and has a long-standing payment history with BPU. But was still assessed setup fees for these 2 metered locations as well as deposits for both of those locations as though they were 2 new businesses. And so I guess we're trying to work through practical application of this kind of language. And, Bill, you pointed out, hey, here's what policy says, and I'm like, policy is permissive, right? We don't have to do this. But then you indicated, I think in your note that we do this, right? So this isn't a may. I mean, if the board intends that every single commercial customer is going to have a deposit equal to the sum of 2.5 times the highest bill, then we need to say that, right? I don't know that that's what the board is saying. I'm just saying, I know that that's how the policy has been written previously. And the application seems to be, at least based on the explanation from the past week, is that really isn't permissive. It's a we do, right?
So just to add in there, it used to say will.
Mhm.
And I believe, and speaking to Angela, the reason why we took out will is because it does say 2.5 times. As in what we were discussing, the deposit we gave was not 2.5 times. So there can be another amount. So if you say it will be that, then it will need to always be 2.5 times the highest bill.
I think
But
what we're
because this was
unclear on,
lower-
Janetta, is that every single time a commercial customer is going to have a deposit. And if that's the
Absolutely.
case, well, so that's something I think the board has to discuss
No,
right now.
I mean, that's what it is currently.
Okay, and
but
that's
May
not
was
what the
the amount.
policy says.
The May
for sure.
was the amount, the May was not 2.5 times. So
Got it.
that's what I just wanted to make.
And I appreciate that.
I think the charge to this customer. Took it down to the minimum level. And they want the flexibility based on that made and be able to adjust it lower, because we didn't have past history to say, okay. Past history usage was this, so.
But you have past history with this customer that took these 2 metered locations onto their account. That's what BPU has. We know they do.
You have access to the system.
No, I know. But what I'm saying is we know they do because this is, one of these things is a longstanding KCK restaurant that has been here and continues to be here, owned by the same company, right? And so what I'm saying is, and this shouldn't be, if we have a credit history to look at, if we have a payment history to look at, why are we assessing deposits? That's what I have an issue.
Because that's where all the utilities are. I mean, this is standard practice for what we all do. This is also allowed by the KCC. So, I mean,
Not saying it's not. I'm just,
if you gave us this to review, okay, and I've been reviewing it.
absolutely, same.
Our policies match up with this, and if we're regulated, then we would be required to do this, okay? I guess I don't know why this was passed out, other than, okay, we will compare ourselves to the KCC. We've also compare ourselves with Kansas City Fire and Light. And West Star, before the merger, now it's Evergy, and then Independence Power Line. So those are other utilities in the neighborhood. Those are the utilities our customers are having service with, whether they live in Wyandotte County, come from some other location, come to Wyandotte County. But, you know, without having those other policies, then I don't know where the industry would be, and then we'd be sitting around guessing at some of this. I'm saying, we do our due diligence with all these appearances.
And I think that's good, and then we do that, and then we have that in place, but there are also, you know, there are exceptions to the different policies. I think that's what we want to look at as a board, if there are agreeable exceptions to it, like if as Rose said, if the customer has multiple accounts with the BPU and that basically in that same location, and the pay history has been good, that the exception would be then we could reduce or dispense with the collection of.
I'm not arguing against that. If the board wants to go in that direction, okay. I'm just saying, here's where the industry is, okay? And everything is set up by account, by meter location. And that's how all these utilities approach that. Okay, so if we want to do something different, okay, then, but that's not staff recommendation. That's just, the board saying we want to do something different.
Which is why we're looking at
That's why.
policies to see if we want to do something different. And
So
this wouldn't be for every business customer, it'd only be for those, if I'm understanding what Rose said, only for those who have existing accounts with the BPU, and they've got a history of good pay.
So just a couple of things to keep in mind with that is some of the customers we have that are commercial customers, they're leasing. As in the case we were talking about, there's leasing, they have someone in there. So the pay history does not belong to the owner. The pay history actually belongs to the tenant. The other thing that I would just say, just to always keep in mind, is we've had several, as we know, companies, commercial companies that have gone bankrupt. If we don't have anything to put against that, or if they've written us, recently having a talk to Lori about one, her department was they were paying through bank draft, but the last couple of those bank drafts didn't come back. And then they finalized the service, and then we're looking at trying to collect $12,000-15,000, but because it didn't come back. So there's always extenuating circumstances. There's always some normal circumstances, but we try to have to cover everything. But we have, as you would know, have lots of companies that do go bankrupt too. And if we don't have anything to put back against those counts, so I would just ask that we just kind of try to look at all of that and determining our decisions.
Understood. Go ahead.
And this is, well,
No, I'm gonna bring up the T-bones, but go on.
this is not with that. This is just pointing out that often you have an owner who has several corporations in different names. Those different corporate entities are different corporate entities, and there's no way to tie them together. So I don't know if that was the case here or not. I'm not.
I don't either. I do know that some documentation of some realty documentation was presented to BPU at these locations. And so this was the actual landlord of the strip center that owned the entire strip center. And we're talking about 2 metered locations that became vacant. And I understand that, they're sitting here trying to, right? I understand you have, we have a credit action against, or a debt collection action against the prior tenant. But that isn't the owner of the property.
And that wasn't my comments, just that in the future, you might see two very, corporations that seem identical, but they're not, so that we may have someone charged a deposit because they have opened a new corporation, even if they have been a customer under because we can't judge, as you know, the law treats them as people.
Sure. Right.
That's all I was pointing out.
Right, and to your point, Janetta, we've had very big commercial customers in Wyandotte County that have squelched on their bill that BPU has never collected to the tune of $750,000. And I don't know if there was ever a deposit that was, number one, we probably couldn't have imposed a deposit that was high enough to even cover that, but I mean, on point well taken, but it isn't just small businesses that do it, just right? And I'm pretty sure that that one hurt us way more than some of the small businesses do. And so, to your point.
Just when you guys are making the decision, also keep in mind when it's a situation like that with a landlord,
Mhm.
we may not have a lot of pay history on them because they are just putting it in their name until they rent the property out again. So we may not have as much payment history as I don't know how many months you may think extend it out to, or what you're thinking, you guys may decide to do, but sometimes it's only 1 to 2 months at a time that we have payment history on.
Mhm.
And that is why it's vacant at that time until they get another tenant and they come in. But we also have reverse landlord, which gives an owner opportunities to then do those things and revert back to them every time. And it's at a lower cost than that. They wouldn't have to pay that deposit. It just reverts back to
Well,
them.
then the service fee is also lower
Mhm.
than the 75 if they do the revert.
And so that's always a great option that we give them when they're going back and forth between tenants. But that, in this case, that's not done on these properties. But those are great options that they can utilize.
I would like to talk about T-bones.
Do, please.
Okay, so, and I wasn't general manager at that time, right?
I do know that.
The board at that time.
Oh, sure.
Okay, so,
Just a fancy resident here in KCK.
so, yeah, T-bones for some reason were allowed to just without paying. But I wasn't adopted under the concept of with T-bones. Not part of it, I don't know about. Somehow decisions made, not disconnect them and try to gradually go around. So T-bone's gone, I don't think we'll ever see any from that. UG did tell me that they're gonna take legal action and try to pursue that money.
They did.
They did. There's a judgment that's not enforceable against any assets.
Right.
I bet they probably will see a penny.
No, absolutely not. But to your point, they were allowed to, and I'm not saying BPU did it, but I understand, right?
Pay what the conversation was. So now T-bone's not there. Okay, UG signed the contract, the lane. That. I'll put the UG in a tough position in terms of what those rates would be. Okay, and didn't account for any rate change later. So now the T-bone model. Okay, here's what we thought we were paying and now the rate is this. Opposition to the unified government and to the monarchs. I don't care what that contract is between you two guys. Here's what BPU, you're gonna pay us based on what you use, based on our current rates. If you don't, then you're setting yourself up for disconnection. I'm not gonna deal with that, like BPU that will do that. That is a difference, because I don't expect that there are 3,000 applicants getting ready to pay. We will go out there and disconnect. Okay. This last week, we had an issue with the brand new apartment building. Was not paying their bill, we had a claim against and infrastructure and all this other stuff. Scheduled them to be disconnected out here in the local village. They paid, they stole everything that day. So, no, the T-bones and something of the past, we're not dealing with that same issue.
Which is great. Absolutely. No, I appreciate that.
The thing I worry about too is, even though it's a business owner that might have multiple locations or whatever, so let's say they walk from this one particular location, even though they're good paying on these others, how do we go about, I guess, assessing or recouping any of that money if we don't have a deposit on that particular account?
On,
On the business that,
I don't know if the business itself has deposits that are sitting in an account somewhere. I don't know.
that's why, if you said because it's a business owner that has multiple businesses within the community, these two, they've been here for a while, they're paying and they're good paying customers. They open up a third one and we don't charge a deposit because of they're good paying on these accounts, whatever. And then let's say they close the third one just and walk away and then they have 1,000.
I think the issue with this one is they weren't like creating a shell company to open up for this 2 new meters. They were trying to prevent having the pipes freeze, right, in the winter. And so they were trying to make sure the BPU got paid, so there was no disconnection at those locations. And so the name of the company they provided is the name of the company that owns the entire strip center. And so we likely have payment history there as well as the associated restaurant with the same business, right? I think they have business names that are similar. I'm not saying they're identical because I don't know what they are, but I mean, we have a longstanding payment history, probably 2 different ways with this particular situation. And I understand that's not going to be every situation,
Right.
but to Tom's point, I mean, if we're looking at exceptions to this stuff, that looks like one, it probably might have fallen into an exception that we probably could have looked at it differently. And because we've got somebody who's trying to make sure that pipes don't freeze on an asset they own. And the next thing they know, they're getting charged literally $600 just to make sure that BPU got paid. I mean, it's just, since I've been on this board, the goal of the board has been for BPU to be easier to do business with. That is not BPU being easier to do business with. It just isn't.
I never known the board, the goals of the BPU is to be able to give away service without protecting ourselves in some way against these people that don't pay their bills or had bad credit and stuff like that. And that's what we try to guard ourselves against. We talked already about our write-offs are probably close to twice what they should be, okay? And if we don't have some level of protection in there, we just continue to accept more and more write-offs, and that just becomes something that we agree is not important for us.
Again, there has to be some level of exception that's here. And if this just happens to be a case where you have, let's call it a 40-year business owner here in KCK, right? And there has to be payment history that can be evaluated to judge that against. That may not be every commercial customer in Wyandotte County, but it certainly was with this one.
Well, whatever we come up with, if the board wants to go in a different direction, my only request is be consistent, okay? And so we're not
Sure.
getting into, we're treating this customer one way, we're treating somebody else this other way. Otherwise, this is gonna get out in the community and we're gonna have a room full of angry customers saying, why are you doing this group of customers this way and you're doing somebody else this way? Okay? And
Well,
it
honestly-
may break down racial lines, it may break down other ones, okay? So
I honestly think it's possible that without more to the board approved policies that are out there publicly, I think it's very possible that folks already believe we treat customers differently,
Yeah.
right? And so when we're relying on business practices and SOPs, I mean, truly, that aren't available to the public, we're believing that they are not implemented differently. So
the policy don't even come close to suggesting. Policies change to where we are actually have documentation and where we are treating people differently, then we have a problem. Okay?
Bill, did you reference before that there's some and I think we talked about the 2.5 times is maybe the upper limit here, and there's some discretion in not having to go all the way up to that upper limit. Did I hear that
So
correctly?
most of the time, in most situations, when a commercial account applies for a service, it's going to be 2.5 times. There's very seldom a time when it's not. The reason why, and this is the good thing about this, is the property is vacant, then we give a minimum deposit of $250. So they did not have to pay 2.5 times their highest bill. So that is the difference. That's where we do allow someone to come in and start the service, put it in their name, and then it not be 2.5 times, which is a higher deposit because it's vacant at this time. But there is some deposit that is because the service is still on and will receive minimum charges. And so a person can walk away from those as well, but they're minimum and we have a minimum deposit on that.
Outside of the vacant situation, is there any discretion exercise, or outside of that, it's just always the 2.5 times?
No, so we have had instances where, say somebody was running a restaurant and then somebody went in and did something else, so their usage isn't gonna be as high. So then we would look at their usage and then we would reassess the deposit based off of their actual usage because they're running a different business.
That makes sense.
And if we want to put one at the beginning, then we need to find a similar business, and we will, that's in our policy, so that we find a similar business. That we think, that's the caveat in there, that we can reassess it in 6 months to see if it's a new business. And maybe somebody was doing something at that business, running big ovens or pizza things. We have people that stop and do some other type of business in there, so it's not going to be the same
Sure.
type of usage.
And then I apologize, I'm, newest to this, so I'm catching up on this, but Rose, was part of the issue on the wording. Right now, it uses may, which suggests perhaps more discretion than what it sounds like usually takes place in those situations, right? So if someone's reading the policy, it might sound to them like, well, I don't know when this is applied and when it's not, and if it's consistent for everyone making that application. Was that, am I in the ballpark of the concern there?
It originally was, but based on the clarification that really is just referencing the discretion that's allowed that Janetta just described with the application of the deposit itself. What concerns me more is that there's not a statement here that says every single commercial customer is going to have a deposit that's assessed.
And it seems to me like maybe there's a way to split that, right? That there will be a deposit assessed and it may be up to, well, I don't know if up to is the right word, because it seems a little bit, in most cases,
have the
more
feedback.
binary than that. I do.
Okay, I just want to make sure you had that.
But right now, may seems to apply to both the amount and whether or not a deposit is requested. And I mean, we could wordsmith that where if we really only need it to apply to the amount and not whether or not there will be any deposit, period, that could be differentiated.
Well, I don't know that there is a case with a non-residential service applicant where there will be no deposit.
Right.
There isn't, right, as it stands today. So we need to make that very clear in our policy, right? So.
Right, we'll send you a copy of this KCC.
Thank you.
That'll provide foundation for how utilities operate. These match up very well against it. Obviously, there are some things that we want this community to see what KCC requirements are, okay? We will fully adopt this. Now, we have. Yeah, I'm trying to help.
Thank you.
So I know you're probably gonna do some more thinking and deciding on what you guys want to do on this, but based on what you just said, do you want to put something like they're under non-residential service applicants, which is under 5.03? Do you want to put something in there that say applicants will have a deposit or applicants will be assessed a deposit? And then after that, then you can put whether you want to put back in there, the deposit will be equal to or may be equal to, but make the first line, non-residential customers will be assessed a deposit, so that you said, then it can cover all situations, it'll be assessed, and then after that, decide if you want to do a different amount or whatever you're going to decide. But putting in there that they will be assessed deposit, then says that everybody will be assessed one, and then whatever other choices that you guys make, go after that.
Yeah, I mean, I just typed out, an opening sentence that I would propose for that, but yeah, so, and it, right, exactly like you're saying, Janetta. I think you have to put it out there front and center, right?
So I was just gonna say that to me, that speaks a little bit to Bill, some of the concerns you were raising, which is we want the public document to make clear that everyone is being treated the same, right? And that might be a point of
The
clarification.
staff doesn't have to, may or may not, it needs to be clear.
Right.
So everybody knows what's going on.
That if any residential service applicant is being assessed a fee, I can look at the policy and I know that if I'm applying for that, I'm in the same boat as everyone else applying that. Then there may be some, couple of factors on the amount of that, but at least on everyone is getting that assessed in some way. Thank you.
So on the the fee schedule. Is there?
No.
A section for non-residential service applicants for the deposit piece?
No.
Will there be?
I believe the reason why is the fee schedule outlines how much the amount is, knowing that we won't know what 2.5 times that is, then that, it's not put in there because there wouldn't be a, now, if you would want to pay this minimum 2.5, it just, or 2.5 times, we could put it in there, but it wouldn't have amount.
But in this case, like you guys said, you like went to the lower part of the scale of 250. How would a commercial customer know that that's the lower part of the scale? Without, I mean, I guess without putting it in a fee schedule.
I think most of our non-residential customers are expecting 2.5 times. If we have someone then that we can say it's not, because the property is vacant, we'll be assessing a minimum deposit of this, and that's what we say, because they're mostly calling in expecting 2.5 times the highest bill. So when we're able to do that, then that is stated to them when we're talking to them.
Tom, Brett, your thoughts on that?
I think it needs to be in writing somewhere. That
The wrong, not the latest fee schedule, we'll get a note.
It's
14.
You also want to wait, it's not, you know, when.
Those are all residential.
I mean, to the things, that we have anything about it. Well, we can add a line that says non-residential deposit 2.5 times average.
The only thing that's up there is disconnection fee for non.
about 2.5 times.
Yeah, that's what I keep coming back to that phrasing and then I stop myself because that I think implies more discretion or discretionary measures than we're actually talking about. And I don't want to then imply that, well, it's 2.5 times for you, but for me, it's 1.5, 1.5 or because we're not, that doesn't describe the practice, I don't think. And so that's when my pause was just, I'm struggling with the proper way to word that, because you're right, it's not a flat dollar amount. You could put 2.5, but there are certain circumstances where it's gonna be that minimum instead.
But the exception would be if it's vacant and there's no
History.
history, then it'd be $250. Is that what?
There's a little clarifying information, when application is made for new business commercial accounts.
Where are you?
So I am in 5.03.
Second bullet.
Second bullet. Well, if it's not based on the estimated type of usage and rate structure, or other businesses that follow the proposed rate structure, what is it based on? Because what we're told is that the lowest amount is 250. That's what we're being told.
Got me with, for them.
Varies. I mean, there's a lot of, I don't know what the average is, a small commercial. Not looking at blind determinants,
For
but
the rate hearing, you guys had averages, like average usage of all the different customer classes. Or those have to be accurate for,
yeah, that's why I said without looking at I can't recall what.
And I didn't know.
oh, no, and obviously I wouldn't expect you to, but I mean, that data's out there.
My question.
The data's there.
It has like, it's 2.1.
I know we got it, Rose. I just.
Yeah.
Excuse me if I'm slow on this, but I'm trying to math this out. The vast majority of the time, it's gonna be that 2.5 times the highest bill over the past 12 months. If there's a vacancy in that situation, you're looking at always the $250 minimum. Okay, so then the second bullet point under 5.03, is that then sort of the catch-all for any, that would be a third category here? On 5.03, second bullet point, the new non-residential account deposit determination, the estimated type and usage.
That's the one Gabby was talking about.
Right, so those would constitute sort of the three possibilities, I guess.
If it's a new business, we haven't been able to establish. Or an existing business and someone's using it for a different type of business and it was originally there. Sometimes it's not going to be,
Right.
it's going to be less than maybe that deposit, what their usage was, or it could be more. So we can't assess it off of what that was. That's why it says we try to find a similar
Right, okay.
business and or weight and have to assess it when they have some actual data.
That makes sense.
There's vacant property. Somebody comes in, they want to put in the same type of business that was in there. You use 2.5 times the
Previous customers, highest bill in the last.
highest bill on the list. If somebody comes in and they want to put in a different type of business, it's not, that is not the same, it's different, then you go with the 250.
No, then we would try to find a similar business within the county. Same size building, we'll try to do that.
Then they will evaluate that later and actually see what the actual usage is.
See that in here.
So Tom, there was a Hardee's on Central Avenue, right? It shut down. There was another customer that moved into it and didn't use all of the kitchen because they were not providing the full service that Hardee's would use. So their energy consumption was lower. Okay, so at the beginning of that, we can't determine what their usage is gonna be. So we can say, okay, we'll assess it at this level. Once they are in business for a couple of billing cycles or so, we can then turn around and assess them. We'll say, okay, we need to adjust it. Then that needs to be- Store has this capacity to be able to use this many kilowatt hours. Okay, but somebody can move in and use a percentage of that.
I think the process makes sense to me and the description of that makes sense. I just think if I were reading this as a business owner trying to figure out which one applied to me, I would be a little unclear without more context of am I the 2.5 or do I fall at the second bullet point where, hey, this is a situation where we're gonna go and find a comparable one. But I think the description of the process makes total sense and the rationale behind it.
And I agree.
Makes sense.
But adjust the language, okay, I mean, we're not disputing that, it's just how do we come up with the right language? Speaks to what we need, and then also make sure the customer understands what deals we need for our operations,
And it's customer friendly
and it's customer.
or business friendly. Not impunity either.
These deposits are still refunded.
Yes, so on the commercial deposits, they're refunded after 3 years of good pay history.
Okay.
And they also can do a surety bond or a letter of credit. And then that was, but then they just have to renew it, but yes.
Are those automatically refunded or does the business have to come in and request those refund?
They're automatically refunded. Like if they don't do the letter of credit or surety bond, once the account has 3 years good pay history, the system automatically issues the refund.
Interim residential is 2 years.
Yes.
So maybe you don't collect deposits and keep it. As some people may think, we do refund those deposits back as long as they continue to.
That's interest.
Plus interest, right?
Have we ever had an audit specifically of just our deposits?
As far as,
Application of policies and or refunds? Are we doing as, we're saying, here's what we're supposed to be doing, and have we ever had just that? I mean, $7.3 million is a lot of money, right? And I understand that that's 2024, but I just didn't know if that had ever been
I
audited.
have to go back and look. I mean, it would have been an internal audit, when customer service, I don't recall specifically, diving into deposits.
So we've done a lot of cash audits.
Yeah.
We have had audits with customer service, like Gabby and I were talking about. That's one of the things they look for is, the deposits that was put on, was this put on, they'll calculate, they'll do things like that when they're looking at our accounts. So they take an account and they kind of dissect it, look at it, the application of the payments, the billings that were put on there, they have.
On third-party audits?
Yes.
So it'd be
So-
our internal audit firm that would do that. Ruben Brown would,
That's
internal audit.
A lot more than
Yeah.
the financial auditors.
I mean, the financial auditor does a sample of billings and everything, but they don't get into the process part of it.
Right.
So we'll look back and see what come up. Anything that may have come up or in company now or company.
Okay, thanks.
Did I hear one time that somebody that had a deposit, but they couldn't find their receipt because they couldn't find a receipt? That they couldn't get their deposit back?
I don't know. I don't know if you heard that, but. I don't think you heard that. That doesn't have anything to do with it. It's automatically, once they hit that, either the 3 years or the 2 years of their pay history, the system is automatic to do that.
And we don't require them to keep a receipt.
Okay, but if they do it, other than at the 2-year automatic refund, if, let's say they get their business and they go out of business at the end of a year and they've got a deposit,
We find out the account
And
and
then
everything.
deposit's credited back. So when we send them the information regarding their deposit, we'll say that your deposit will be refunded after 2 years of good pay history or once the account's final, whichever occurs first. Or if it's a commercial account, 3 years, or once it's final, whichever occurs first.
we want to go ahead and wrap this up so we can have time to take
Yeah.
a couple minutes before we get into our regular meeting. Are we at a point where everybody is clear on whatever,
I think we're clear on our next date.
what our next day?
So let's mark where we stop so we'll know where to pick up and leave.
Where we started.
Regress, we didn't go.
Sticking farther.
Say the same marker. Move to adjourn.
Second. For second. It's been moved and seconded. We adjourn. Can we have a roll call, please?
Roll call, Mulvaney Henry,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Groneman.
Aye.
That motion carries. This meeting is adjourned.